All right, so we're out in the vineyard collecting some samples. There's different ways of doing everything, right? One method would be to go pick individual berries and hopefully and pick them all over, and then pick them at different spots on the cluster, like on one side, this side, bottom side. Okay, so another method as you get closer to harvest is to pick full clusters, and that's what we're doing today. That's what we want to use is full clusters today. Um, that's another philosophy. How many? How much? So I don't know. We'll pick 10 or 15 clusters, but we'll go in with how pretty Norton is. I mean, it's a small cluster of grapes. You can see them in there, and you can see some are starting to shrivel a little bit, but that's just here and there. I don't think they're about to shrivel, but so what we'll do, we'll pick on this side, we'll pick a cluster, and then we'll go to the other side. So now we're picking on the west side, and we'll pick on the east side. You know? Which one? That's the problem. This is a great tool for picking grapes. It's got little razors when we used to pick by hand. Now we're mechanically harvested. Thank God for that. And these grapes are extremely hard to pick. They're small clusters, and it just seems like it takes forever to pick the grapes. But we'll pick about 10 clusters, 15 clusters or so, and we'll crush that. That's what we'll use to crush. All right, so the next step in the process is to take the grapes and de-stem them, take the grapes off of the stems, and collect the berries. So that's what I'm doing here. It's a little tedious process. Of course, we have machines that do this when we're producing wine, but we're just trying to get a good representation of the chemistry of the grape, so that we can determine when we want to harvest the grape. So this is just part of the process of removing the grapes from the stems manually. The next step is to crush these grapes. That's a little challenge because doing this manually, I'm gonna have to put it in another container, get the juice. But you can see it's juicing it. We're just breaking those skins and releasing that juice so that we can then collect the juice to test the juice. I'm gonna collect this juice. I'm trying to prevent skins from getting in there. We'll have to get those out. Four different things that we're looking at. Brix, the amount of sugar in the grape, the TA, the titratable acidity, the pH, and the malic acid. That's a really important one. Okay, so there's a couple of ways for us to check the sugar. We have this electronic refractometer that we can use. And, we like to use both the refractometer and a hydrometer. And so we want to know how much sugar does a grape have. Well, that's at 20.9 Brix. Okay, so that'll produce about 10.5% alcohol or so, uh, about that. If they're not ready, we know that. It needs to hang some more. Then we can also test, get the same number or some, it's going to be close, using a hydrometer. So we can take this juice and put it in here with the hydrometer and check. It's just another way of getting the number. Get a little bit of, we want to avoid the grapes because it's going to throw it off. So we're just going to see how does that jive, how does that correlate? And it's close. What do we have? We're right around 21 or so Brix. You can see it here. Okay. And then you can rotate it around. How much alcohol is that? About 10 and a half, 11. This says 11.5% alcohol. So a little different number that we're getting. And that's very common. You're not both, but the hydrometer, it's hard to distrust a hydrometer, although it's got some solids in the juice. So, um, yeah, both of these feed into the information. We're around 21 Brix, and we know that's not sufficient. We want about 22 and a half, even up to 23 or so. We're pushing it this year. We want to let the grapes hang quite a bit, and we're not sure what that is. This is, You know, winemaking is an ongoing experiment, if you will, and hopefully improving the process as we go. But again, that's a important part of it, the amount of sugar. The next step is to check our titratable acidity, and that's real important. Acid is very important. Your palate is able to discern acid incredibly well. We want about six grams per liter titratable acidity. But now, first of all, it's very important that our meter is calibrated. You know, the little stick meters are really, there's some precision meters out there. This is a good one. We have another meter, but I really like the stick meter. It's just convenient. Works great. But you can see we've calibrated the meter 4 and 7, so it's ready to go. So now that we've validated our meter is calibrated properly, we'll go ahead and check the juice to see what our acidity is on our juice. I'm sorry, not acid, pH. That's two different things. People get that confused. Of course, uh, acid, there is acid, and acid affects the pH, but what is the acid? Excuse me, I'll say it again. What is the pH of the juice? Well, it's 3.6. You know, that's textbook. That's about as good as it gets. Um, okay, it's an indicator. It's just information that we're collecting. So we'll record that information. pH is absolutely important for stability. And again, 3.60 is, that's what we want in a red wine. It's perfect. That doesn't mean it's going to be perfect at all, but that's what we've got right now. All right, so next step in the process is titratable acidity. We want to know the actual amount of acid that's in the juice. So, you know, there's a couple of different ways to do this. We want an accurate sample, 5 ml, to do our titratable acidity test. There's a couple other devices. You know, this is just one pipette to draw out 5, and you see that's the problem. So that sucked up some fruit. I'll slowly draw it out of there. Let me push it back in. Nope, picked up some fruit. And I still picked up some there. And that's the challenge, you know, when you're messing with trying to test fresh juice. How do you get a good sample without all that fruit there and it messing up again? Nope. Okay, hopefully that's 5 ml, right? That's really important that we have an accurate sample, 5 ml. All right, the next step is to do the titratable acidity test using our pH meter, our calibrated pH meter. This is a little redneck, but hey, it works. It works great. You guys that want to use the spinner and everything, okay, great. Go ahead. I like this process. My friend Anthony gives me a hard time about it, but that's okay. And we're going to watch the pH, and we're going to go up to 8.2. That's going to tell us the amount of acid. We're going to do a calculation from this number, from the amount of sodium hydroxide that we use to neutralize the sugar, excuse me, the acid, and you can see it's up to 5. And that, you know what it's telling me? We got a lot of acid yet, and we want that acid to come down. We're not going to harvest at a high acidity on Norton. We're going to wait until that acid comes down. Even though some other numbers may be good, that doesn't mean that we're there where we want to be as far as fruit ripeness. Remember, it's multiple factors to determine if we're ready to pick these grapes. What chemistry is going to make the best wine? That's what we want to know. And that's something that, you know, you continue to learn. And God gives you a different season every year, and you have to deal with different issues. We're right at about 8.2 right now. I might have passed it just a tad, but that's okay. We're close. 8.25. Okay, so now we're going to see how much sodium. This is where I'm getting old. I'm going to need glasses. Sodium hydroxide. How much did we use? It looks like we used 0.3, 0.4. Looks like about 5.5. Now we need to calculate. We're going to multiply. Let me grab my little calculator. And it's 5.5, I know it's high, times 0.15 is equal to 8.2 grams per liter, or 0.82%. Too much acid to pick. It's not time to pick. We know that. We know it's not time. We want to trend this information. No, we don't want to forget to write this information down. Titratable acidity, and we're at about 8.3 grams per liter. We want about 6 is what we want. Now there's one more test to do yet, and that's malic acid. That's next. All right, malic acid is very important for Norton. All wine grapes have malic acid. Norton has a high level of malic, and what we want to do is get that malic to drop. That's very important to really produce a good Norton red wine. So this is a great tool that had come out several years ago, and we jumped all over it because it's such a breakthrough. This is Sentia biosensors. It is it's like a sugar tester strip. You know, this little strip right here. There's several different strips. We can use it for free SO2, malic acid, titratable acidity, fructose, glucose. Anyway, this is a great meter, and for testing malic, that's a big one. That's what we're going to use this for today. So it's all set up, ready to go. Now we have to prepare our sample. First step is to get 400 microliters. Okay, we want 400 microliters of buffer solution. We're gonna make sure I got it right. Make sure you don't have any hair, right? Okay. So 400 microliters of buffer solution. Now we need 100 microliters of juice. I just use a separate pipette. Mix these two. Which one did I put it in? There it is. Not much, right? Very small amount. We're going to mix this. What we're going to use for our sample. Okay, so we want to mix that up. Sample. All right, now it's time for the meter. All ready. Make sure that the right code. Yep, good. Strip. I didn't do it properly. Okay. Good. Insert your test strip. Now it's preparing this biosensor. Now it's not like the sugar testers for a diabetic. No different because it has to prepare that sensor. So I'm waiting. Now it's ready. Now I'm going to put this little drop of juice of solution on that tester, and let's see what our malic acid is. Again, this is major. This is a great tool. 37 seconds. Oh my goodness. All right. 2.37. That's close to where we harvested last year. We're not ready. We still have too much titratable acidity. So here's our numbers. Here's our malic. Malic is at 2.37 grams per liter. We harvested last year around somewhere right around 2.1, something like that. It's a good titratable acidity, excuse me, a good malic, but again, our TA is too high. We want our sugar to come up some more. It's not time to harvest. We've got, hard to know. We're going to have to do this again. We'll repeat this process to determine when is it time to harvest Norton to make the best Norton wine that we can in 2026. So there you go. Brix, pH, TA, and malic acid, all used to determine when to harvest our Norton grape.